I had it on in the background.
Oh, g'day, mate.
I wasn't watching because I would have loved to be at base and watch it. Such a good day for it.
Hey, it's base calling.
I think there's some seriousness on there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Turns
Oh, yeah.
out when we switched emails,
Yeah.
context.
A lot of like sunburn, like people wearing hats, so like not sunburn here, but like sunburn everywhere else.
Yeah.
Real oversight.
It chose the wrong sunscreen.
Yeah, or no sunscreen. I mean, what sunscreen can stand up the whole day?
I have to buy industrial strength sunscreen.
Where's your banner? Did you bring a banner?
No. Just an A4 piece of paper. Please.
Give it a few more minutes.
Yeah, we'll wait a couple of minutes and kick off at 11:30. You've got everything you need at this stage.
I think so. Just jump in if you have to.
Pardon me?
Our stream is going live, just as an FYI.
Just leave this here.
Give it another minute or so, just in case there are some latecomers. A few of these. We didn't run a conference as a result of traffic and we had 1 minute. First one. Good to go. Lock the door. Good morning all. Thanks for your interest. Thanks for being here. This is a significant development in an ongoing investigation today between New Zealand Police and Immigration. We've got one more coming in. 2 more. So thanks for your interest. I'll first of all just introduce myself. Peter Devoy, I'm an Assistant General Manager with Immigration New Zealand, Head of Compliance and Investigations, and my colleague is
Mike Foster, I'm Detective Inspector, Hawke's Bay Police.
I'll just first of all recap on the facts just as they were set out in the media release this morning. I'll cover those, a couple of boundaries that I'll put in place, and then I look forward to your questions. So this morning, a 64-year-old man has been arrested and charged with human trafficking and slavery following a lengthy investigation by Immigration New Zealand and New Zealand Police. It is alleged that the man, who is a Samoan national and New Zealand resident, has been regularly bringing Samoan nationals to New Zealand to work illegally for him in the horticultural industry. It is believed that his alleged offending has been ongoing since the 1990s across the Hawke's Bay region. Allegations made by the victims include not being paid for work completed, having their passports taken, and being subjected to physical assaults and threats. The victims also allege that their movements were closely monitored and controlled by the man, and there were restrictions on both where they went and who they had contact with. So it's pleasing to be able to terminate that with the arrest of this the 64-year-old today. He is currently at the Hastings District Court. It's my understanding that he has not yet faced the charges, but will be proceeding on the basis that we can't name him, and certainly because it's a matter before the courts, we can't talk in detail about the facts of the matter. So if you can just appreciate that in your questions. So open to questions.
How many victims do you think there are here?
We've got 10 victims at the moment from both Samoa and New Zealand. How many more are out there, we're unsure, but what we would say is if anybody has any concerns, to contact either Immigration New Zealand or police.
Do you suspect there are more?
We simply don't know, and that's why I say if there are already people out there that are concerned or know anything, to ring Immigration or New Zealand Police.
Can I ask, if there are 10 victims and this dates back to the 1990s, can we infer that some of them did this for an awfully long time?
We're talking about being under his control for up to years, but there isn't one victim who has been in that status across the whole 10 years. It's been a roll-in of the victims over that time frame.
When did you first become aware of the alleged offending and how long was your investigation?
We became aware of this as a result of one of the immigration staff firstly dealing with a person who was unlawfully in New Zealand, but then recognising that this person wasn't just unlawful, but they were a victim, and the investigation started then about 2 years ago.
What can you tell me about the horticultural institutions where these people were working?
The victims were contracted out to various orchards throughout Hawke's Bay, and at this stage that's all we can tell you.
Are there any investigations going on against or regarding any of the owners of these orchards?
Not by police, no.
So can I infer there's no offending by any of the orchardists?
That's correct. There's no one in the high end of the industry, the horticultural industry, is being charged. This is about labour contracting.
So did they just not know that this guy was doing something a bit dodgy? I know sub judice, but I just want to get the extent to which these orchardists might have been completely unaware of what he was doing.
That is probably the situation.
Probably.
Were there particular fruits or vegetables that these guys were mainly picking, or were they just across the Hawke's Bay working in different areas?
It's across the Hawke's Bay, working in various places, yes.
Right.
But you're not pinning down whether it's berries or apples or pears or anything like that?
No.
How does this level of offending compare with other known cases in New Zealand?
I mean, this is a new low for New Zealand. To be charged with this number of victims and the combination of charges of slavery and people trafficking, I would represent as a new low. The people trafficking is a significant offence on the legislation books of New Zealand, along with slavery. This is the 4th time we have charged with people trafficking, but it's a first for the New Zealand Police. So the way I see this is that this is bringing the offending into almost a mainstream of offending within New Zealand. This is exploitation is something that we are seeing more of, and since 2015 we've now got 4 prosecutions for people trafficking. We've got 2 before the courts at the moment.
Sorry, did you say that this is the first time the police have been involved with the people trafficking situation?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we've been working with Immigration New Zealand for the past 2 years on this matter. It will be our first. It is our first. And it signifies the importance that we place on that, 2 government departments actually merging and working together.
So this is the first slavery case, but there have been 4 trafficking cases, is that correct?
There have been previous charges for slavery alone. In combination, people trafficking and slavery, that's the new low.
How was the man recruiting people, bringing them over, convincing them to come over here? Was he travelling to Samoa?
He has travelled to Samoa, but the details of the case obviously being before the court we can't talk about.
Is he the only person that you're investigating, or are there others?
He's the only person that's been charged at the moment and likely to be charged with this, yes.
With 10 victims, would this be the biggest case of human trafficking that we've dealt with, or how does it compare on a scale basis?
The first prosecution we had, I think, had more victims as such, but the combination of slavery, the treatment of these people sets it apart.
What, if anything, has been the attitude of the Hawke's Bay horticultural industry towards cooperating with you and perhaps trying to develop new techniques to make sure this doesn't happen again? How have they dealt with this, and what's been your interaction with them?
Well, we've only ever had the full cooperation of the orchardists and the people involved throughout this, and that includes the Samoan officials as well that we've been dealing with over the last 2 years.
What has the Samoan assistance been like? Who have you been dealing with over there?
We've been working with the Samoan authorities, Samoan police, and been keeping them up to date and briefing them, and there will be ongoing work with them.
Are some of the victims now in Samoa? Or?
Yes. Yes.
Was this connected with RSE at all?
No, there's no connection with the regional seasonal employment scheme.
How many people between your teams have you had working on this investigation over the past 2 years?
We've had anywhere between 15 and 20 people working on it over the last 2 years. We've had police working in Auckland with immigration staff, and we've had immigration staff based out of Hawke's Bay for quite some time as well.
Partnering with police in these investigations, it certainly adds a resource component that we don't have. So tapping into a wider resource with police is certainly of assistance to us, but it also brings investigative options that we don't have because of the size of our investigation team. So the extra capability and capacity in that regard has certainly been beneficial to this investigation.
When did you decide that you would be partnering with the police? At what point in this case did you decide that it was a matter for the police as well as Immigration New Zealand?
Well, we met, I'd say 2 years ago now. Obviously there were meetings involved in planning. There's been a lot of planning with this as well. And it was an easy choice in terms of combining our resource and working together.
Was it after that first person was spoken to and a sort of alarm was triggered?
Yes, it was, yes.
It's not uncommon to hear stories of exploitation in the primary sector and in horticulture. What is it about this that's taken it over that line and right up to the slavery and the human trafficking sort of in the spectrum?
You're quite correct. It's not. It is becoming more common that we're seeing exploitation in the labour force. We've got to realise that New Zealand's labour force is changing and that migrants make up a significant component of the labour force now. That labour force, when they come into New Zealand, is a vulnerable labour force, and that's what we're seeing here. So it is going to be incumbent upon us as New Zealanders to be more aware of what might be going on in and around the labour force that is out there.
If you had 15 to 20 people working for 2 years, that sounds like quite a big mission. I just wonder, how easy was this case to crack? Was it a real toughie?
It's been difficult in terms of the spread of our victims. We've got victims in Samoa and New Zealand, and some have obviously very limited English as well. So it has been difficult. The 15 that have been working on it haven't been full time, so they've worked on it from time to time. Immigration New Zealand have done a lot of work on this and have done a great job too.
Have any investigators had to travel to Samoa to track people down or anything?
Yeah, we've had regular contact over the past 2 years with Samoan authorities.
So considering that our labour force has, moved people from overseas looking at it, I mean, are you guys looking at new things, or what can we do to stop this? What do you need to change the ballgame a little bit?
Used in Britain and in Australia now, and one of the catch cries of the Australian push towards legislation to counter this is hidden in plain sight. So part of the issue is that it is going on, that exploitation is going on, and it's there and available. So it's going to be up to Kiwis, New Zealand citizens and the migrant communities to ask questions, to notice what's going on and to call it. And that's what we request.
This probably sounds like an obvious question, but just to be sure, would you consider this case modern day slavery?
It's got to have the hallmarks of fitting within that.
Have you briefed Immigration Minister Ian Lees-Galloway on this development before it was made public today?
The Minister has been briefed, yes.
What was his reaction?
I didn't run that briefing.
Do you have an idea of how many people he might have, this guy has brought over in the last few decades? I mean, are we talking hundreds?
Yeah, we do know that, and we've looked into that, but I can't comment.
We just got time for a couple more questions.
So was this guy working alone, or may have been working with other people to bring people over? Or?
He's been working on his own, yes.
So some of those people who have worked from in the past, are they happy with their employment? The other ones, the non-10 victims?
I'm not commenting on the particulars of the case. These matters will obviously be traversed if there is a trial.
Why did you make it public? Why didn't you wait till after the trial? Isn't there a sense that this might impede justice at some stage if you've already come out and said so publicly that this is modern day slavery?
I'm speaking generally about exploitation in New Zealand as opposed to the specifics of this case. The sketchy detail that we have given is just that.
Can you speak to some of the alleged offending? Does it include threats?
Again, we can't go into any form of detail of the case itself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think it needs to have a good level of fruit, but not so much that it's